Frida is well on her way to being one, and they're both suburban Mumbai girls, who've gone on to achieve quite a lot. And Frida herself, I've spent some time with her doing interviews and things like that. She's quite extraordinary. So good on you. Don't say too much, but just a sneak peek of what's to come with Netflix.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really grateful to Netflix. My production company has a deal with them now where we are creating a variety of content for them. The Fame Game is our first series to launch with Netflix, but then we have a whole slate of others that are coming up behind. And it's given me the opportunity to, as you mentioned, to work with Freida Pinto, who, if we're talking about grace and elegance, that those are also adjectives that describe her. She's created such a career for herself globally, coming from India and now being a global star. It's really an honor for me to have developed this project, The Henna Artist, which is based on a best-selling novel written by an Indian-American author named Alka Joshi. It's really, this is what gets me really excited. The idea of bringing together South Asian talent, the best South Asian talent from all over the world, whether it's a Madhuri from India or a Alka Joshi author from San Francisco, or writers from New York, and actors from the United States, putting us all together into different projects for the whole world to enjoy.
Sri Rao, great to see you. How is it there in New York City? And it's nice to know that pink is one of your favorite colors.
I'm glad that we're color coordinated. That's the most important thing. It's good here in New York. It's cold, so you guys are having a lot better weather than we are.
Yes, we are. So Madhuri told me that you actually got in touch with her for the very first time on an entirely different project. My question to her was very simply, do you know Shri from before? Or is this the first time that you're interacting? And she said, no, I do know him from before. It was a project, but it didn't work out. So you want to tell me about when you first met Madhuri, what it was concerned with?
So I, of course, have known her all my life and been a huge fan, like all of us and millions of people around the world. I always thought that she's an actress who really needs to be introduced to global audiences, that it shouldn't just be us Indians who love and appreciate her. I feel like she's such a superstar. She's at the level of a Meryl Streep or Julia Roberts or, any of these really brilliant actresses. So I connected with her initially on another series idea that I had, which didn't work out, but we got to know each other through the course of that experience. And then when Netflix approached me a couple of years ago with this opportunity to create a series and asked me if there's something that I'd be interested in doing, I didn't know exactly what the idea would be that I wanted to create for them, but I knew that whatever it is, I wanted it to be with Madhuri. So actually the Fame Game started with Madhuri before it even started with the story.
Interesting. Well, it might interest you to know that 3 separate cast members were talking about how hardworking you are and how you've literally had sleepless nights. One of them would be Manav Kaul, and the kids, which is Muskan, as well as Lakshmir, were talking about how you were up nights through the schedule, because obviously it was daytime in India doing that. So I hope you've managed to catch up on sleep. Or are you waiting for the promotions to get over for you to get your good night's sleep?
I had to wake up at 4:00 in the morning today to do these promotions. So I'm waiting after February 25th, then I can relax. No, but it was a really challenging experience, not just for me, but for the entire crew, because we were shooting, I was in India and we were shooting for about a month in 2020. We had already started rolling and I was there. And then COVID happened. And luckily I was able to get out and get home on March 18th, 2020. So it was on one of the last flights out of Mumbai before the airport shut down. So I reached home, and luckily, thankfully, and then COVID, of course, the lockdown happened. We resumed shooting in October of 2020, but I was not able to return to India because of COVID. So I had to showrun the series over Zoom, which was a really interesting experience. Netflix hooked it all up with the technology. They hooked it up so that I was watching the monitors live on set from my home. But of course, with the time difference, it meant that I was up all night. But it was, in the end, we all struggled a lot to make this series. All the actors, the crew had to shift from Mumbai to Nasik to shoot the series, where we created a bubble of safety for everyone to work. And it was definitely challenging.
I have to give you this, that each character is so perfectly etched out. I mean, you would have had me at a one-line a story idea that went, world famous Indian actress disappears. With no spoilers there. The trailer says that.
Yeah, and that was the way that the show started.
Oh, wow.
And when I sold it to Netflix, that's all that I said. I said it's a famous Bollywood actress who disappears in the first scene, and it'll be played by Madhuri Dixit. And they said, "Great, let's do it. We want to buy that." And honestly, I didn't know what the story was beyond that. So luckily, we figured it out.
That's lovely. So, the entertainment aspect and stuff is fine. But what also really moves me is that, you're not shirking away on approaching issues that are very close to the LGBTQI community, for example. We're not going to talk about what characters, but I was thinking to myself that this really is a handbook on how parents should handle their child coming out of the closet. And there is a particular character who does. Also, during the course of the show, how unapologetic, a gay character is about her sexuality. These are all very telling things, and they come very naturally in the plot point. Was that one of the key focus areas for you as a creator?
Yes, absolutely. There are a lot of issues that we deal with in the series. We deal with LGBTQ issues, as you mentioned. We deal with mental health. We deal with substance abuse. We deal with misogyny and sexism. And those were all very intentional, because I wanted this to be a really entertaining show, and it is. It's going to be a lot of fun when people watch it. It's definitely a binge-worthy show, one of those classic Netflix binges, that you're going to want to finish in an entire weekend and you won't be able to stop. But with that entertainment, I also wanted to portray the real world, and all of these issues, all of these people are in our world, are in our families, and there's no point in shying away from that.
I'm so glad you bunged in the mental health issue there. Again, we're very proud to say in India we're developing more sensitivity towards LGBTQ, but mental health and dealing with mental health issues is still at a very nascent stage, Shri. Anybody who's bipolar or dealing with a disorder like that is just labeled pagal hai. You know what I mean? So I'm very happy again that you've dealt with it with a certain amount of sensitivity. Does that also involve interacting with medical health practitioners while you're writing the script, for example, to pick up nuances of what a bipolar character would be going through?
Yes, it's also as a result of my personal experiences with my friends and family, and we all have mental health struggles. All of us do. My own personal experiences. There's no shame and stigma in discussing that, and I'm glad that India has been progressing in that regard. I think Deepika Padukone has been really influential in getting that message out there, removing the stigma. And we do present a story about mental health, about a character who is bipolar in this series. But more so than the characteristics of bipolar, more so I was interested in showing that someone can have a mental health issue, and whatever it may be, and just talk about it and get treatment for it and be open about it and be embraced by their family, and still have a successful career and have a happy life, because that is the truth of mental health. It is no different than physical health. There's no stigma attached to a person who has cancer. So there should similarly be no stigma attached to a person who has a mental health disorder.
I just want you to shout out to your cinematographer as well as your production design people, because, there are two sort of feels as far as the film is concerned. One is when you're showing Madhuri Dixit, the actress, going about her business. Some of them are very opulent, like a Sanjay Leela Bhansali, colorful set. And then you get into the house, which is again shot very beautifully. The lighting is so exquisite. And then you have real world scenes, like for example the bits that I've seen, which has Muskan Jaffrey's character out in the open in Bandra or wherever it is in Mumbai city, where you've just kept a real feel. So big ups to your cinematographer. I'd like you to name him or her, and also the production design to create this with great finesse.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for noticing that, because our team works so hard in creating the look of the show. And I hope that people will appreciate that and see it as soon as they watch the show. That Manoj Katoy is our cinematographer. He did a brilliant job in lighting and lensing and framing every single scene and every single shot of this show with such care and such patience. And Amrita Mahal is our brilliant production designer who transformed these sets and these locations into gorgeous backdrops. But they're not just gorgeous and stunning, they also help to tell the story. So as you noticed, when the story changes, the cinematography and the production design and the costume design all change with the story as a way to help tell the narrative better. So when Madhuri's character Anamika is there, it feels warm and comforting and it's very classically cinematic. When Anamika is not there, then it feels more disorienting and the world feels a little shakier and feels a little colder. Those are all things that we worked really hard to create, the creative team behind the show.
I love the casting. You did say that, you had Madhuri even right at the top. You even wrote this, keeping her in mind. But Nandini Shrikant and team seem to have done a fabulous job. There are some known actors, some unknown actors, some, somewhere on the fringes. But this is an interesting bunch. Never a dull moment when Sanjay Kapoor is around, isn't he? He's such a fantastic character. Makaran Deshpande, who I keep teasing him, saying that whenever he's called me to the theater to see some of his plays, it's so experimental. It's difficult to understand them. But again, a wonderful bloke. And, you got lucky with the kids, just great actors again. And of course, Suhasini Mule. I'd like you to talk about the cast a little bit, please.
Absolutely. I mean, if there's one thing that I'm most proud of about this series is the casting and the actors that we've brought together in the ensemble. I put our casting directors, Nandini Shrikant and Karan Mali, I put them through the ringer. We saw hundreds of actors for each of these roles. And I kept saying, no, keep going, audition more. And they did, because I was really particular about finding brilliant, talented, realistic, real feeling, natural feeling actors to each of these roles. And of course, some of them already, like Sanjay Kapoor and Manav Kol and Rajshri Deshpande, who are all great, and Suhasini Mule. But then there are the younger stars of the show, Lakshvir, Muskan, Gagan, Danish Sood. There are they've really rounded out the world to make it feel really contemporary, to make the show feel really contemporary and relatable and authentic. I'm so proud of the work that they have done, especially because, look, they're going up against these senior veteran actors, Madhuri Dixit and Suhasini Mule, like acting opposite them in a scene. And these kids, I mean, you've seen the parts of the show, they completely hold their own and nail it. Right with these other senior actors. And I think that for the senior actors, it was very refreshing because now we see even their performances in a different light. Like you're going to see Madhuri's performance in a different way in this show because of the other actors that she's surrounded with, that you've never seen her surrounded with before.
I like the writing, and of course, Madhuri infuses whatever she does with so much dignity. But Anamika is dignified in everything that she does, in her relationship with her son, with her husband, with some of those relationships are very unfair, with her mother. So was dignity a word you kept in mind when you wrote Anamika? And it's obvious we think of Madhuri in those terms. It's a thought. Maybe it's just my word, but I'm thinking dignity.
I was always having the words elegant and gracious. Those were the things, dignified, elegant, gracious. That goes hand in hand with Madhuri Dixit. I mean, those are her middle names, really. And those are the qualities of Anamika Anand, too. That here's this woman who is a superstar and has millions of fans, And through it all, she never has an ego. She never abuses her fandom. She never abuses her power. She's gracious and magnanimous and elegant throughout the entire throughout her entire life. That's something I found really fascinating.
The jingle is so sticky. I remember hearing the teaser, and then I was at the trailer launch. It just eats into you, doesn't it? I mean, the opening credits and the music. So I'd like to know who your music director is. Is he the same person who did your BGM, your background music too, or did you have separate people to do your track and your BGM?
So here in America, for a series like this, we just have one composer that does all of the music, which is what we had in this case. It was Andrew Orkin and Rini Raghavan, a team who came together brilliantly to create this score. The score is, I'm glad that you noticed it because it's incredibly distinctive. We spent so much time for the score to be a character in the show as well, that it should sound like something you've never heard before, that it should sound Indian, of course, but it should also sound kind of global at the same time. And so in the team that I put together, Andrew is a really accomplished composer here in New York. He's actually South African, but lives in New York. So he has a global perspective that's very American. And Rini is Indian, born and raised and trained in Chennai in classical Carnatic music, but then trained in the United States at Berklee College of Music and now lives in New York. So we had this team that was very global in its sensibility and also very Indian. And so I'm glad that we were able to create a unique sound. And then at the same time, we have some really great songs in the show as well, anchored by our big dance number that was written by Salim Sulaiman, who it was a joy for me to be able to work with because that's been a dream. And so that song, Dupatta Mera, which you'll all hear very soon, was written by Salim Sulaiman, choreographed by Vaibhavi Merchant, and danced and performed by Madhuri Dixit. So for me, it was like, there's
Bollywood royalty. Bollywood royalty, Shri.
Yes. Those were the names that I had on my list, and I went to Dharma and said, "Can you get these people?" And of course, they're Dharma, and they can make magic happen. And I'm so thankful that they did.
Yeah, it's a perfect segue to talk about Karan and Apurva, Karan Johar and Apurva Mehta. I mean, they're at the position. You've collaborated before. I know you wrote Bar Bar Dekho. You worked with Dharma Movies at the time, which is now Dharmatic, which is the OTT wing and producing content. But you would think that being the larger than life figures that they are, or the company they've created, they would put themselves on a pedestal. But I have a lot of time, love, and regard for Karan and Apurva. It must be a delight to do this project with them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as someone who's been a Bollywood fan for his entire life, it's two places. It's Yashraj and Dharma, and that's.
And you've been with both. That's wonderful.
And I'm so very grateful that I started my Bollywood experiences with Yashraj, and now I'm at Dharma. It's a dream come true. They epitomize what Bollywood is. They epitomize professionalism and, again, grace. They are, as we all know, incredibly powerful and prolific. But when you walk into Karan's office or Apurva's office, they are so down to earth and so humble and treat everyone the same. Like a guy like me coming in from America that they don't know at all, who's not even from the country, they treat with so much politeness and humbleness and grace. And then anyone in the office, from the coffee boy to the ADs to the directors to the guy who opens the door, I've seen it with my own eyes how gracious they are to everyone across the board.
So you're quite the poster boy for Indian content or diaspora content, or showing India, the West, a window into India. I believe your next project is with Netflix, and it's another girl. Actually, if I think of it, Madhuri is a legend. Freida is well on her way to being one, and they're both suburban Mumbai girls, who've gone on to achieve quite a lot. And Freida herself, I've spent some time with her doing interviews and things like that. She's quite extraordinary. So good on you. Don't say too much, but just a sneak peek of what's to come with Netflix.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really grateful to Netflix. My production company has a deal with them now where we are creating a variety of content for them. The Fame Game is our first series to launch with Netflix, but then we have a whole slate of others that are coming up behind. And it's given me the opportunity to, as you mentioned, to work with Freida Pinto, who, if we're talking about grace and elegance, that those are also adjectives that describe her. She's created such a career for herself globally, coming from India and now being a global star. It's really an honor for me to have developed this project, The Henna Artist, which is based on a best-selling novel written by an Indian-American author named Alka Joshi. It's really, this is what gets me really excited, the idea of bringing together South Asian talent, the best South Asian talent from all over the world, whether it's a Madhuri from India or a Alka Joshi author from San Francisco, or writers from New York, and actors from the United States, putting us all together into different projects for the whole world to enjoy. Because that's the thing about Netflix now. It doesn't matter where you are anymore. It doesn't matter where the show started or where the movie started. People are watching it everywhere. We're going to be dubbed into 5 languages and subtitled into 40 languages. So it's a great opportunity for Indians to be showcased globally.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I can see the Fame Game becoming as famous anywhere around the world as Narcos was in India. There were people watching. Yeah. I wish that for you and for the show.
And I should mention that the show is also going to be dubbed into English, of course, but also Telugu and Tamil. So all Wonderful. Of India can appreciate it.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. My last question has got to be about the Bollywood Kitchen. Yeah. So tell me about that. That sounds like a really interesting concept. Looks like you're having fun with that one. Just lots of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bollywood Kitchen is a book that I started as a book that I wrote, which is an homage to my love of Bollywood films. And I talk about the best Bollywood movies in it, and then have recipes of my mom's home-cooked Indian food to go along with each film. So it's like dinner and a movie concept. And Americans here have really embraced the book. And now we're turning it into a live, immersive event called Bollywood Kitchen, where folks can come and enjoy a great meal and Bollywood dance performances at the same time. So we're giving we're giving Americans and the world a taste of what they love most about India, which is our great music and dancing and food and joy for life. And that's what I'm really passionate about.
The Fame Game, created by Sri Rao, starring Madhuri Dixit in an excellent ensemble cast, directed by Bijoy Nambiar and Karishma Kohli, premieres today. That's the 25th on Netflix. Please go watch. I really appreciate your time. This was a wonderful conversation, and keep up the great work. I can't wait to run through the rest of the Fame Game.
Enjoy it. Thanks so much for your time.